Diversity in classical music. So a bit about what I do. My name is James Fleury. I'm the founder of a music marketing agency called Nouvague, and in short, we work with opera companies, orchestras, choirs, record labels, film composers, and a bunch of other people, whoever will work us and pay for us, basically, on a variety of projects. They're helping them put out their records, putting together tours, collaborations that maybe you're not used to seeing, putting classical musicians wherever we can, front and centre in other genres. I'm already getting heckled. This is great, and and a variety of other things as well. Diversity, bit of a buzzword. I'm going to be honest. It's not a word that I like to use. So, if any of you got any drinks, anytime I use the word diversity from now on, you got a drink. Okay, that's the one rule of this panel because it's a word that I'm a bit unfamiliar with using. I don't really like it, and it's appeared more and more in the press as we go along. A little bit background about the classical scene. So, 1999, it was 5.9% of the music industry. It's now gone down to 3.2%. We are a dying genre. Yeah. We don't like people. We like less people, all of us seem. So, 2017, 3.2%. 80% of the classical music market is still physical. So, people still buy CDs. They don't really engage in things like streaming, and we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. But the most important stat for me is the one at the bottom. So 20% of all the revenue for all the classical organisations in the world is through private donations, individual sponsorship, and trust and foundations. So people like the Arts Council who are funding people through National Portfolio Organisation and a bunch of other creative schemes that they run to ensure that people can put on their tours, actually afford an orchestra for 3, 4, 5 days in the recording studio to produce an album. They help to make that happen. So it's interesting. A fifth of the revenue in classical music is from people who are in the common domain, or it's from the government. So with that in mind, you would think that we have a responsibility in classical music to make sure that that money is being used to reach art, to reach everyone with our art. So not to discriminate people irrespective of gender, sexuality, age, and the one that always gets left out when talking about diversity, which is mental and physical disability. Interestingly enough, Marketing Week last year, I sat down with Russell Deeks, who's the managing director of Marketing Week, and he told me that over half of the people that they surveyed last year in their big marketing audit thought that mental and physical disability wasn't represented in our brands today. Really, really interesting. That's 27% for LGBT, and it's 29%, I think, for women. So about the same for LGBT kind of issues in brands, whether it's Coke or Dove, who have done a lot in that kind of space in recent years. But classical music is really, really struggling in this area. So there's a couple of areas that I'm going to kind of talk about, 3 areas in particular, and how maybe we can make a few changes and how that might apply to different genres as well, so pop, indie, and particularly dance, which has a lot of kind of common threads in terms of particularly the streaming market. Super cool quote. I heard this, I can't credit to myself for finding it. BBC's development manager, Aisha Shafar, said it at the Radio 3 Diversity Conference. And it's really cool. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So it's the idea that we have a sphere around us. We're interested in certain things. I like Chelsea Football Club. I like classical music. Hooray, there's a boo. Look at Darren's face, already face palm. Don't mention football in a music conference. Yeah, so I've got things that I'm interested in. I've got things also that I'm not interested in. So my boyfriend always tries to get me to go to the Bussy building to listen to what I think are terrible artists, and I'll never go with him, but he loves it. So there are always things that, even though they're quite close to us, will never go into the territory that we feel uncomfortable with as kind of individuals. This is what I kind of call the sphere of interest. So here's little old me, here, doing my own little thing, not really engaging with everyone else. But the idea that the people at the top of classical music, whether it's an artist director, usually it's the founder of an opera company or principal kind of player in an orchestra, the musical director, who make all the executive decisions about what type of music you make, where you tour, who you collaborate with. That's very much within their own individual kind of sphere of interest. How do we change that? So challenge your instincts. So I think it's really important that we surround ourselves with people who don't have the same interests as us. Too many times in music, and particularly, you know, you look at some scenes that have been incredibly successful. So the grime scene, for example, the introduction of kind of the hip hop scene across the US, and now the fact that they're re-educating people with, you know, Straight Outta Compton and big films, and now it's gaining kind of attention. People have done that by taking a very internal approach, and this is our community, this is what we're about. But actually, if we look further from that, and it's almost counterintuitive to marketing, so we always talk about our target fan, what does the demographic look like, who are we trying to always speak to? If you look and completely flip that the other way around, you'll find that there might be people who might come to a specific, you know, limited number of concerts that you do, or they might engage with 1 or 2 tracks on your album because it's something that speaks to them, but they might not engage with the rest of the things that you do. So I think it's always good to surround yourself with different people, because you never know kind of what's going to come out of that. Explore alternative spaces. This is a really cool one. I think classical music is really kind of excelling in this area, actually. This is Bold Tendencies. They overtook the multi-storey car park in Peckham. And last year, they were lucky enough to get approached by the Proms to do a prom in the underground car park, multi-storey car park, sorry. It sold out in 4 minutes. So, yeah, pretty popular. People like to explore, you know, different kind of musical experiences outside of the normal setting that they would normally experience it in. There's a variety of other things that go on, you know, in this same space one. But this is a good example where as soon as you take music out of a setting where people are associated with and put it somewhere else where no one goes to a car park to listen to music. Oh, but I'm in a car park. Oh, it's an everyday thing. We always drive our cars, we park in them. You know, it's something that is a commodity kind of for people. They're used to it. And it's bringing our art to them in a different kind of way. The big one. Make your music discoverable and available. Classical music, undoubtedly, and particularly some other genres like dance, have big difficulties when it comes to specific new platforms and way of discovering music. I've noticed that there's a certain streaming service that's sitting in the back, a new classical streaming service that we're going to be launching in the new year. And you might ask, classical music streaming service, why do these people exist? You know, why are people investing so much time in developing something new? You know, sometimes hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds into something new that maybe might only cater for a small niche of people. The truth is that classical music and, you know, other genres like dance react very differently to how people listen to music. So a Beethoven symphony, for example, you might have maybe 7 or 8 tracks on an album, but they'll all be 15, 20 minutes long because and each movement is a different track. Currently in streaming, we pay out per stream. So Rihanna is getting paid the exact same for her 3-minute track as the London Symphony Orchestra are getting paid for their 15-minute track. Doesn't seem really fair, does it? So that's kind of the big area. It translates into dance as well, so mixtapes, you know, bootlegs, edits that are kind of streamlined down, talking to Steve all around the world earlier about the fact that they have to create kind of 6-minute snippets for streaming to make sure that they take advantage of the platforms that they're already, but no one's kind of going out and creating a new service for dance. So classical music is doing this. There's a few, Prime Phonics sitting in the back, there's Gramify that's out there already, but it's all around the idea that, firstly, the artists feel that they're getting paid fairly. The second thing is the metadata. So unlike an Ed Sheeran track, you won't find on Spotify Shape of You covered by 60,000 artists. However, in classical music, it's generally the same repertoire that's kind of churned out. So, you know, your Beethoven Fifth, you'll have like 200 orchestras around the world who would have recorded that. How do we know who those people are? How do we find out, you know, what their history is? How do we differentiate which one's better than the other, or which style I might prefer? All of that kind of is quite a complicated, formulaic process, and some of the streaming services are looking at making it easier for people to engage with classical music. When they go onto a streaming service, they might listen to John Williams and something is kicked back from them because they've listened to the Star Wars theme tune. You might like this because it's based on kind of recommendations and curation. I think this is quite a cool point that I want to raise, is that historically we've always been boxed into, going back to the kind of sphere of interest thing, we've been boxed into certain ideas that we follow specific trends. Generally before, fans were fans of specific genres, but didn't venture into others. Now we live in a world where it's okay that I can like Bark and Stormzy at the same time, and that's okay. I'm not allowed to be, feel ashamed or embarrassed about that. And I think we need to embrace that more, and the fact that people are so willing to cross genre lines and explore different types of music or different styles, or sometimes bring those people together to explore new ideas. The other secondary point is about how arbitrary we've got in our music consumption. So the fact that not just in music, but we talked earlier about Netflix, Amazon Prime, we're expected now for people to spoon feed us content. We here love music, we're around it all the time. We sometimes get disillusioned with the fact that people actually don't care about music as much as we do. It's not a necessity to their lives like it is for us. It's a luxury. So the extra pocket money they might have at the end of the month might go on gig tickets. It might go on their streaming service. And that $9.99 actually is really valuable for them. It's the only money they've got in their pocket to pay for that. So we've got to make sure that when we're going out to people, we're putting it in the most places where they can discover it, because they're already investing in their small little way into discovering about that music. So whether it's plugging in an orchestra or a choir into a live set, already as part of a concert at the O2 Arena. So Barbra Streisand recently did her recent tour with a live orchestra and choir, and that was sold out all across. She did 2 dates at the O2. Pete Townsend did the classic Quadrophenia, which I was lucky enough to be involved with at the Royal Albert Hall. That was with Alfie Boe and a variety of other people, but played with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And most recently entered the top 10 of the rock charts was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra did a remake of all of Elvis's top hits in 2 different discs, and it was one of the first classical releases in the last 20 years to actually break into a mainstream chart. 2 minutes? Cool. Last point on streaming. Let your fans choose where they want to listen to what then becomes their music. I think this is kind of a really essential point, that it's our job as marketeers and as artist managers to get across to people that, yes, we create the music and we're part of that process, but once we put it out there, it very much has to feel like it belongs to the fan. They can listen to it where they want to listen to it, how they want to listen to it, and where they want to listen to it. Because if we dictate that too much to them, they'll become alienated and they'll try and find a way that it works for them. That's why we see kind of piracy come in, is the fact that people say, no, I don't want to listen to it there. I would choose to listen to it in my own way and find my ways of getting around that. Point number 3, this is going to be Darren's favourite. Learn from your fans. And why is it going to be Darren's favourite? Because it means I get to talk about gay opera. So the idea... The idea that we listen to our fans and the communities around us about what are the stories that are important to them? What are they talking about in their communities that we might not be talking about in our art? That we can then reflect back in maybe the creative process or the marketing process. It's up to us how we do that. We decided to go completely full hog, and we went to Egg London and we said, we want to tell the story about the gay clubbing scene, and the chemsex and drugs that kind of goes on. So they said, great, we love it. So they decided they were going to put on a 10-night gay opera performance in Egg London, which we did. It sold out. There were sniffer dogs going around the place, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, to make sure that no one was taking on actual drugs, which was pretty funny. But that was kind of a story that we partnered with Attitude magazine on that. So they premiered the trailer for that performance, and we had every single LGBT venue in the Soho area who played the trailer every 15 minutes on their channel. So it was talking about getting to a new audience. We then did a bit of kind of insight into the audiences at the end and found that 80% of the people who had come to all 10 performances had never been to a classical music performance before. So that was a really kind of successful achievement for me, the fact that we were bringing people from all sorts, bars across Soho, and they were coming to experience a gay opera in King's Cross. Quite cool. So that's kind of the 3 things I was going to talk about for classical music. If anyone's got any questions, let me know.